B.B. King handed Elvis Presley his legendary guitar, Lucille, and said, "Show me you can play real blues, white boy, not that rock and roll stuff." The room went silent. This was 1956 Memphis, and what B.B. was really asking was whether Elvis had earned the right to sing black music. What Elvis played in the next 3 minutes didn't just answer that question. It made B.B. King grab Elvis by the shoulders and say 3 words that changed everything. "You got it." The year was 1956, and Memphis, Tennessee was at the center of a musical revolution that was making a lot of people uncomfortable. Elvis Presley had just exploded onto the national scene. His first RCA single, Heartbreak Hotel, had gone to #1. He'd been on television, on The Ed Sullivan Show, causing controversy with every hip shake and every note he sang. Teenage girls were screaming, parents were horrified. And in the black community of Memphis, particularly among the blues musicians who'd been playing Beale Street for decades, there was a complicated mix of pride and pain. Pride because this white boy from Tupelo was singing their music, bringing blues and rhythm and blues to white audiences who would never have listened to it otherwise. Pain because Elvis was getting rich and famous, playing a style that black musicians had created, while those same black musicians were still playing small clubs for small money, still riding in the back of the bus, still drinking from separate water fountains. B.B. King understood both sides of this complicated situation. He was already an established artist, one of the most respected blues guitarists in the country. He'd had hits on the R&B charts. He toured constantly, and while he wasn't making Elvis money, he was doing better than most. More importantly, B.B. was a thoughtful man, someone who thought deeply about race, music, and what it all meant. He'd heard Elvis's records. He'd heard That's All Right, Elvis's first single, which was a cover of Arthur Crudup's blues song. He'd heard Mystery Train, originally by Junior Parker. He'd heard all the ways Elvis was taking black music and making it accessible to white audiences. And B.B. had questions. Was this cultural theft? Was this appreciation? Was Elvis just a pretty face with a good ear, or was there something real there? The opportunity to find out came in June of 1956. Elvis was back in Memphis for a few days between tour dates. He was still connected to the city, still felt at home there, even as his fame was taking him to bigger and bigger stages. Sam Phillips, the owner of Sun Records who'd first recorded Elvis, suggested they all get together. Sam knew both Elvis and B.B. had recorded both of them at different times, and he thought it might be good for them to meet. The meeting was arranged at a small recording studio on Beale Street, neutral territory in the heart of Memphis's black entertainment district. It wasn't publicized, no press, no cameras. Just a few musicians and friends, a chance for 2 very different artists to meet and talk. Elvis showed up nervous. He knew what some people were saying about him. He had heard the word thief before, though never to his face. He respected the blues, had grown up listening to it, had learned guitar by trying to copy what he heard on the radio and on Beale Street. But he also knew that respect and appreciation could look a lot like appropriation, when the person doing the appreciating was making more money and getting more fame than the people who created the music in the first place. B.B. showed up curious. He wanted to look Elvis in the eye, shake his hand, hear him talk about the music. He wanted to see if this was a kid with a good heart who loved the blues, or just another white person taking from black culture without understanding what he was taking. They met in the studio's small lounge area. Sam Phillips made the introductions, though they barely needed introducing. Everyone in that room knew who everyone else was. Elvis, still only 21 years old, extended his hand first. "Mr. King," he said, his voice respectful, almost shy. "It's an honor to meet you, sir." B.B. shook his hand, studying the young man's face. Elvis looked him right in the eye, which B.B. appreciated. A lot of white people in 1956 Memphis couldn't do that with a black man, even one they supposedly respected. "Call me B.B., he said, "and I've heard your music. You've got something, that's for sure." They talked for a while. Elvis asked B.B. about his touring, about the songs he was working on. B.B. asked Elvis about the fame, about how he was handling going from unknown to the biggest star in America in less than 2 years. It was cordial, respectful, but there was something unspoken hanging in the air. Everyone in the room could feel it. Finally, B.B. decided to address it directly. He wasn't one to dance around uncomfortable subjects. He reached for his guitar case and pulled out Lucille, his famous Gibson guitar. Anyone who knew anything about blues knew about Lucille. B.B. had named her after a woman he'd nearly died trying to save from a fire. The guitar represented everything to him, his voice, his soul, his life's work. "Elvis," B.B. said, holding Lucille across his lap, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to be straight with me." Elvis sat up straighter, sensing the shift in tone. "Yes, sir." "Do you understand what the blues is?" B.B. asked. "Not just the music, but what it means, where it comes from." Elvis thought for a moment before answering. "I think so, sir. It comes from pain, from struggle, from people making beauty out of hardship." "That's right," B.B. nodded. "It comes from the fields, from Jim Crow, from people who had nothing but their voice and their feelings. It's black pain turned into black art." He paused. "So when you sing it, when you play it, when you make it into rock and roll, what are you doing? Are you honoring it, or are you taking it?" The room was completely silent. Sam Phillips looked like he wanted to intervene, but he stayed quiet. This was between B.B. and Elvis. Everyone else was just witnessing it. Elvis took a breath. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "Mr. King, I can't speak for what other people think I'm doing, but I can tell you what I feel in my heart. I love this music. I grew up poor, not the same kind of poor as black folks in the South, I know that, but poor enough to understand what it means to hurt, to struggle, to need music to get through the day. When I hear blues, I hear truth, and when I sing it, I'm trying to honor that truth, not steal it." He paused, then continued. "I know I'm making more money than the men who taught me this music. I know I'm getting opportunities they never got because I'm white. That's not right, and I know it. But I didn't create that system. I'm just trying to play music that moves me, and hoping that maybe, if white kids listen to my records, they'll start listening to the real thing. To you. To Arthur Crudup. To Junior Parker. Maybe I'm naive, but I hope I'm opening doors, not closing them." B.B. listened to every word. He watched Elvis's face, looked for any sign of dishonesty or defensiveness. He didn't see any. What he saw was a young man who'd thought about this deeply, who carried some guilt about his success, but who genuinely loved the music. "All right," B.B. said finally, "I'm going to give you a test, not because I don't believe you, but because words are easy. Music is truth." He stood up and held Lucille out to Elvis. "Take her. Play me some blues, real blues, not rock and roll, not that up-tempo stuff you do on stage. I want to hear the slow kind, the kind that hurts, the kind that comes from somewhere deeper than your throat." Elvis looked at the guitar like B.B. had just handed him something sacred, which, in a way, he had. Everyone in that room knew B.B. didn't let people touch Lucille. She was his most prized possession. "Mr. King, I can't," Elvis said. "That's your guitar. I couldn't—" "You can and you will," B.B. interrupted, "because I need to know if you got the blues in you or if you just got a good ear. There's a difference, so play." Elvis stood up slowly and took Lucille. He held her carefully, reverently, feeling the weight of the instrument in his hands. He sat back down and positioned the guitar on his lap. For a moment he just sat there, eyes closed, like he was praying or gathering courage, or both. Then he began to play. The song he chose was "How Blue Can You Get?", a blues standard that B.B. himself had recorded. But Elvis didn't try to copy B.B.'s version. Instead, he played it his own way, slower, more raw. His voice, usually so controlled and powerful on his records, became something else. It became vulnerable. It became hurt. It became real. He sang about being mistreated by the woman he loved, about giving everything and getting nothing back, about being so blue he could cry. And in his voice, in the way he bent the notes on Lucille, in the way he closed his eyes and let the song take him somewhere painful, everyone in that room heard the truth. This wasn't a white boy playing dress-up in black culture. This was a musician who understood heartbreak, who'd lived with pain, who could channel that pain into something beautiful. B.B. King stood perfectly still, listening. His arms were crossed, his face unreadable. But as Elvis played, something changed in B.B.'s expression. The skepticism softened. The distance melted away. By the time Elvis got to the final verse, B.B.'s eyes were wet. When Elvis finished, he held the last note for a long time, letting it hang in the air like a question. Then he opened his eyes, looked at B.B., and carefully handed Lucille back. "Thank you for letting me play her, sir," Elvis said quietly. B.B. took his guitar back, but he didn't say anything right away. He just looked at Elvis, really looked at him, and what he saw was something he hadn't expected. He saw a kindred spirit. He saw someone who understood that music wasn't about color or money or fame, it was about truth. Then B.B. did something that surprised everyone in the room. He set Lucille down, walked over to Elvis, and grabbed him by both shoulders. He looked the young man directly in the eyes and said 3 words that would echo through music history. "You got it." Elvis's eyes filled with tears. "Sir?" "You got it," B.B. repeated. "The blues, it's in you, not because you're black or white, but because you understand suffering, you understand truth. And when you sing that music, when you play that music, you're not stealing it. You're living it. There's a difference." Then B.B. King, one of the most respected men in blues music, did something even more surprising. He pulled Elvis into a hug. Right there, in 1956, Memphis, in a room full of witnesses, a black blues legend embraced a white rock and roll star and gave him his blessing. When they pulled apart, B.B. had a smile on his face. "Now I need to ask you something else, and this is important." "Anything," Elvis said, wiping his eyes. "When you play those big arenas, when you're on that Ed Sullivan show, when you're singing to all those white kids who've never heard blues before, I need you to tell them something. Tell them where this music comes from. Tell them about the black musicians who created it. Don't let them think you invented it. Make sure they know the truth." Elvis nodded seriously. "I will. I promise you, I will." And he kept that promise. In interviews for the rest of his life, whenever anyone asked Elvis about his influences, he always named names. Arthur Crudup, Big Boy Crudup, B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. He never claimed to have invented anything. He always pointed back to the source, to the black musicians who'd given him the foundation for everything he did. After that night, B.B. King became one of Elvis's biggest defenders. Whenever other musicians would complain about Elvis stealing black music, B.B. would tell them about the night in Memphis, about how Elvis played Lucille, about how he understood what the blues really meant. "That boy's got soul," B.B. would say. "Color doesn't determine soul. Pain does, love does, truth does, and Elvis has got all 3. The 2 men stayed in touch over the years. Not close friends exactly, their careers kept them in different circles. But there was a respect between them, a mutual understanding that they were both trying to do the same thing: take pain and turn it into beauty. Take truth and turn it into music. Years later, in an interview, B.B. King talked about that night. "People ask me if Elvis stole the blues," he said, "and I tell them no. You can't steal something that's meant to be shared. Blues is a feeling, not a possession. And if someone feels it truly, if they understand where it comes from and they honor that, then they've got as much right to sing it as anyone. Elvis honored it. He respected it. He never pretended he invented it. And most importantly, he felt it. That night when he played Lucille, I heard a man who understood pain. That's all the blues ever was. Pain made beautiful." The guitar, Lucille, stayed with B.B. King for the rest of his life. She went through many incarnations, many different physical guitars, all bearing the same name. But B.B. would sometimes tell the story about the night Elvis Presley played her. "Only person I ever let touch her," he'd say with a smile, and he treated her like the lady she is. When Elvis died in 1977, B.B. King was one of the many musicians who mourned publicly. But his grief was different from the others. He didn't mourn Elvis as a fellow entertainer or a cultural icon. He mourned him as a brother in the blues, as someone who'd understood what it meant to take pain and turn it into art. At Elvis's funeral, among all the flowers and tributes, there was a guitar pick. Just a simple guitar pick, nothing fancy. But it came with a note in B.B. King's handwriting. For Elvis, who proved that the blues doesn't see color, it only sees truth. You played Lucille once, and she never forgot. Neither did I. The story of that night in Memphis, of B.B. King handing Elvis his most precious possession and Elvis proving himself worthy of the trust, became legend in music circles. It was a moment that transcended race, transcended genre, transcended all the artificial divisions that humans create. It was just two musicians, one testing, one proving, both recognizing in each other the thing that matters most: authenticity. Because that's what the blues has always been about. Not color, not culture, not ownership, just truth. Just pain turned into beauty. Just the universal human experience of suffering and surviving and finding a way to make something meaningful out of the struggle. Elvis Presley got to play Lucille once, for 3 minutes in a small studio in Memphis. And in those 3 minutes, he proved something that needed proving. That music belongs to anyone who can feel it truly, who can honor it properly, who can understand where it comes from and carry it forward with respect. "You got it," B.B. King said. 3 words. But they meant everything.